Man, as soon as I saw the trailer for Star Renegades, I knew I had to play it. And over the last month, I've clocked probably over 80 hours in the game, and I've got to say it's one of my favourite roguelike games to date. It's got great action, strategy, and beautiful animation. I've never played a massive damage game before, but after this game, I'm definitely going to keep my eye on what they put out next. At launch, the Switch version did have issues. I mean, there were crashes, there were bugs, but with the patch 1.0.2, there was a lot of improvements made. And they're planning another patch coming around New Year's for more improvements and features. But enough of that intro for the game, let me tell you how I'm going to be structuring this video. We'll start with an explanation of the game, game mechanics and how to play, and then we'll be moving into tips and tricks, some advice on how to actually take advantage of some of the abilities in the game. Well, enough of that, let's get started. The game has an overall story going on, where these intergalactic dimension invaders called the Imperium are invading different universes and destroying lives. Your job, being part of the Star Renegades, is to stop the invasion and destroy the invaders' capital ship. On your way, you'll be travelling on 3 different planets, defeating Imperium soldiers and hard-ass bosses called behemoths. After each planet, you'll get to pick 1 out of 2 renegades to join your group, apart from the 3rd planet. This will give you a maximum of 5 renegades, expanding the types of tactics you have to use. Each renegade has its own class, but I like to group them up into DPS, tank, disruptor, and support. Some renegades are a mix of 2, such as Wen, who is a mix of a DPS and a tank, and depending on the items you give her, she can also be a disruptor. DPS is quite simple, they deal big damage, sometimes killing things faster is the best defense. Next we have tanks, used to control aggro or tank damage for other allies. Disruptors are characters with stuns, or they can delay actions with huge stagger timers, such as Nordo, very useful if you want to stop an enemy from attacking. Supports help with giving barrier, more damage and defense. Along with that, there are 3 main stats I want to talk about: HP, barrier, and armor. When getting attacked or attacking, barrier is the first bar that will be subtracted from. Let's say you have 100 barrier and 100 HP. If an attack does 40 damage, you'll be left with 60 barrier and 100 HP. Once all your barrier is gone, the next bar that will be taken from is your HP. And armor will subtract the amount of HP you lose with each attack. For example, if you have 100 HP and 10 armor, and an attack does 20 damage, you will only lose 10 HP. It's important to know that barrier will be restored after each battle, while HP and armor won't. So finishing battles with only barrier being touched is the ideal result. Alright, with all those stats out of the way, let's get on to combat. There are different attack attributes, such as light, normal, heavy, flurry, and AoE. The light moves are fast, and they generally don't hit that hard. Normal moves are quite standard, normal speed, and normal damage. Heavy has a longer cast time, and does big damage. Flurry are attacks that do multiple hits, and AoE are attacks that hit everyone. When you attack before your enemies, you do a crit, which does extra damage and some extra effects. There's a bar at the top of the screen which shows in which order someone gets to attack. Some attacks will stagger enemies, delaying when they'll be able to make a move. Pushing an enemy out of the round is called a break, and it stops them from using an attack throughout the turn. Breaks are important to stop allies from being attacked by enemies, and helpful for also getting crits. There are many more type of skills, such as giving barrier or countering attacks, which we'll talk more about in the tips section. For each battle you finish leaves you some DNA, which is basically EXP. The more levels you gain, the more abilities you unlock. Every even level up gives you a new skill, while every odd level up gives you a new card. Cards are used to improve the relationships between your team, and also gives buffs to help them out in upcoming battles. We'll talk about cards just in a bit, so bear with me. While travelling the map, you have to make decisions on where you go first, as you only have 9 zones you can enter. After opening 3 zones, it will turn to night, and you'll get to use the cards that you've got. There are 2 ways to get cards. Each renegade has a list of cards they will get every night, and this list will also expand for every odd level up they get. The second way is in zones, where there will be a vending machine to give out cards. Each card has a number of hearts it takes to use, ranging from 0 to 3, and every night you'll get to use 5 hearts. From my knowledge, the cards from the vending machines will cost 0 hearts, and each card will also tell you how much affection each renegade will receive. After 25 affection points between 2 renegades, both will receive a perma buff, depending on the type of renegades they are. Once reaching 50 points, the pair will unlock a combo skill, which relates to which renegades you picked. These skills can be cast instantly in a fight, and vary in what they can do, but test different ones out and see what you like. There are more activities that you'll meet on your travels, such as shielding stations which boost someone's shield, an armor station to repair everyone's armor and boost one's up, or a station for health recovery. There are chests for coins which can be used to buy equipment after a plan is completed, and extra challenge fights where you fight a group where your shields have been depleted a bit by a cannon. Winning these battles will give you extra coins too. Lastly are weapon chests, which are guarded by officers on each planet. They are basically mini bosses with high stats and advantages and disadvantages with traits. Each chest gives you the choice to choose out of 3 random items. I do have some tips on how to swing things into your favour, so tune in for the tips session for that. Every night a couple zones will be locked off, but you can unlock zones by reaching the device in the centre of the map where the objective is. There are also random events that will happen, but I'm not 100% sure how they are spawned yet. But I have an idea it has something to do with killing special enemies noticed by the renegades that trigger them. Once 3 nights are over, you'll be teleported to the behemoth, which have insane amounts of damage and HP on them. When you defeat them, you'll be able to use your coins to buy new items and get your next renegade, moving on to the next planet. As you know in roguelike games, once you die, you start all over. Although in this game, all the tech that you've gotten from the Imperiums can be used to buy new heroes and unlock different types of equipment that you can use later. Alright, with the basic explanation out of the way, let's get on to some tips, yeah? So cards and affection. There are a couple of things I like to do with cards, primarily aiming for the best combos I want on my renegades. Although if I really need some healing or armor, I'd prioritize that. Lastly, if I feel like I'm in trouble for the next fight, I use cards that I think that can help, like boosting defense or damage or something like that. Alright, choosing renegades. I think it's a good idea to test about different renegades to see what you like. Although I do believe out of 5, I'd like to have 2 frontliners, a disruptor, and a support at least. I think that's the best way to go. And for lastly, probably fill up a DPS role, maybe. The more you play, you boost your overall level, which unlocks more traits for your heroes to start with. Lastly, there are some renegades that are kind of worse to get at lower levels, and picking them up might make the first couple planets more difficult. Such as Shenya in my experience, which doesn't really have any support capabilities early on. She mostly has low damage, she has some speed into your attack timing, but she doesn't actually do too much early, but later on she has a lot of barrier and she can really contribute. Alright, battle tips. Like I said before, don't be worried about getting your barrier damaged too much. Even your support and DPS is barrier. As long as they don't lose HP, all went well. Don't stack up barrier and armor just on one renegade. Some bosses have AoEs and do too much damage for one person to consistently take all the damage. Try to spread out the damage where possible, because if you're remembering, barrier gets repaired after every battle. So if the back line gets damaged and it doesn't eat into the HP, then taking some barrier damage just doesn't mean anything. No, you don't want your front line to always be taking all the damage. When they get past the barrier damage, if someone's attacking your back line, you don't always have to defend it, as long as they're not going to be damaged too hard. You gotta take that into consideration. So this is a real important one. Bosses can be immune to stuns and they can have advantages and disadvantages. So let's say they can have resistance to 50% of normal damages, so you do 50% less normal damage of course, and you also stagger 50% less. Or they can be weak to, let's say, light damage, so you can do 50% more light damage, and it can also stagger them 50% more of a light hit. So it's quite important to know which skills you need to use on which boss. Alright, moving on to zones. Overall, I say item and coins are equally the top of things to go for. Coins may be more useful actually, because at the end of the planet you actually get a choice of what items you want to buy, or chests are random, so you never know what you're going to get. Well, that's not 100% true actually, because the items you get to pick from the merchants are actually at random, but you get to pick more than one, unlike the chests where you only get to pick 1 out of 3. But coins also give you the items that you can use on the planet itself. So say like you come up to a behemoth and you want to prepare for it, you know, going for the chests are really useful in that situation. Overall, the more items you get, the better. You know, you always want more items. After that, I'd say shield is probably the second most important thing. Giving shield to a less tanky teammate, as bosses also do some high DPS sometimes, AoE wise, it might be useful to do that. Armor and health are also useful when needed. Although the cards at night can also repair armor and heal HP, so at times that might be all you need. Alright, it's iron time, baby. Sometimes I like to prioritize leveling up the renegade just for a specific item I want. For disruptors, attacking early and making them do more stagger is most important. For supports, they can get items to improve their barrier recovery skills, so try to get some of those, as barrier is really important, definitely at the higher levels. There's actually quite a lot of conditions in the game that I haven't talked about, such as burning, bleeding, or decreasing someone's attack and defense, and many more. I'll probably do another video on that if you guys are interested in that. But overall, something that's quite interesting is that AoE attacks will actually spread conditions onto everyone, so that's like super useful. Finishing up with my last tip here, so if you're actually going for an item chest and the items are all bad, they give you really bad options, you can reload your game and see if you get better luck next time. And if you do reload the game, what actually happens, you'll actually reload from your last autosave, which will probably be from the last battle. So just remember that. I mean, you never know. Sometimes you can get lucky. You could get lucky the first time, or if you really want a good item, try 2, 4, 7 times of retrying, and maybe you'll get something good. Alright guys, well that brings me to the end of the episode. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I've gone on long enough. If there's anything more you want to hear from, just leave a comment below, leave a like, subscribe. I've really enjoyed this game so far. I plan to keep on playing it. Might even do some challenge ones and upload them. Maybe even stream the game if people are interested. But yeah, just tell me what you think, and I will catch you later. See ya.